there have been calls for this national conference since 1999. This is 2012.
Yes.
The calls have gone unheeded. So what choice do we have as Nigerians? Shouldn't we just sit back and make our contribution as best we can to this amendment or review or whatever it is called? What should the option of the Nigerian be?
The Freedom of Information Act, which you now have as a law, also suffered the same fate. As a matter of fact, the call for the convocation of the Sovereign National Conference did not start in 1999. It predated that time, around 1992, where you had the deals of Akabashon, and so on and so forth, where they were literally driven away by the military and the program scuttled. Now, the question would be, do we need this Sovereign National Conference? You see,
we have all agreed that we do, but nobody's listening.
No.
So what do we do?
The alternative of not, the implications of not listening is what you have in the form of Boko Haram. Is what you witnessed in the nature of Niger Delta militancy. Is what you are going to have in the form of social uprising. Because when you fail to discuss, those who make peaceful resolution of some critical issues impossible. Make violent resolution of this. Do we need that violence? The answer is no. So we will continue to advocate. We will continue to campaign, except they come with superior arguments. I listened to David Mark, Senator David Mark. I know you people will correct me on that. He came across in trying to open the program as the usual master, admonishing Nigerians and insisting openly. I watched him not once, up to 2 a.m. You know, you people repeat your programs overnight. Up to 2 a.m. today, when he insisted that they were not going to tolerate any person who is not ready to conform with their own procedure of the exercise. That cannot fall within the purview of what Leonard Sik has said about disagreeing. It cannot. What has been the problem is that whereas we pretend as though we are interested in constitutional reforms, the truth is that we take every step to run away from it. I'll give you an example. Even the Obasanjo contrived
conference
that he talked about, go back to history. Initially, it was declared as the Presidential Technical Committee on the Review of the 1999 Constitution. About the same time, the National Assembly embarked on their own constitutional review. Whereas the technical committee could not conclude as a technical committee, it came out as PC, Presidential Committee on Review of the Constitution. That is PCRC. Before we knew what was happening, like he said, there was a contestation between the committee set up by the presidency and the efforts of the National Assembly. It was too late in the day before Nigerians knew that it wasn't so much about what we were told was going to happen, but who took the upper hand in the whole process. That repeated itself during the last dispensation, when we had the Mantle Group at the National Assembly. So I am saying that what is very important is that we must sit down and look at the process of constitution making in a nation.
Okay,
it's not peculiar to Nigeria.
Very, very quickly. And I'll ask the same question of the senior advocate, Mr. Adesina. Very quickly, tell us, do you think the problem is with the name or the title, Sovereign National Conference? Is that the cause of the
I would think that the problem is with the sincerity of those who are the helm of affairs.
Okay, I'll ask you the same question. Is the fear that of the title? Can we change it? Will that make any difference so that we can go to the core of the problem? or problems of this nation?
I believe the fear is not in the name. The name is just a mere identity, if I can put it that way, in the context of this discussion. You cannot fear a name. That you put sovereign or you remove sovereign does not really tamper with the deliberations. Sovereign only makes it final, all right? And the wishes of the Sovereign National Conference cannot be final because it will still be a committee, whether large or small. What will make it final is a referendum. So the product will have to be subjected to a referendum in order to give it that popular legitimacy that we're talking about. So it's not a name. I think the problem is the leadership. You see, leadership is very important in all these things. Somebody said that it must be the character of the leadership at every level to take tough decisions. There are times you need to take tough decisions. Now, we have to achieve our aim not by domination, but by persuasion. What successive governments in this country have been doing is to dominate their people. They've been dominating us. And that has not worked. So, if you have embarked on a process, you are doing something in the same way and it's not working, you have to think of another way of doing it so that you can get a different result. Your question is very pertinent, and I want to come back to it. Your question, my sister, that can we accept whatever system the leadership is ready and convenient to put in place so as to get what the people want? That was the question. Now, again, that dovetailed into whether the fear is in the name or it's not in the name. We can marry the two questions. I believe that if mountain fails to go to the Muhammad, Muhammad can go to the mountain. If we cannot have a full-blown sovereign national conference, let us have a kind of national conference. For example, what is going on in Asaba today can be expanded. They can bring in student union, appoint 3 of your representatives. Nigerian Bar Association send 2 representatives. Market men and women, other identifiable societies can be asked to send representatives. When you have that, the National Assembly itself now becomes a representative in that body. And then you subject the 1999 Constitution, you can make the 1999 Constitution now as a raw material to provide for section to section debates. There you will have mature considerations of all the issues, beginning from composition of Nigeria, to power sharing in Nigeria, to federal fiscal allocation, and so on and so forth. The product of that assignment can then be duplicated in different Nigerian languages and be sent to different sections for debates, for discussions at their local levels.
Okay.
Now, let me complete the process.
Okay.
When you have that, all right, the government can now take it further by putting together a constituent assembly to aggregate the views of the people from all this process. And when they have that, they subject it to people's referendum. This will not tamper with the sovereignty of the National Assembly in any way. And it has happened before in this Africa. In 1991, the National Party, the reigning National Party in South Africa, set up what they called CODESA, all right? Convention for Democratic South Africa. Because the agitation against apartheid and discrimination was getting more and more, fierce and terrible. That government itself was a constitutionally elected government, quote and unquote. It was a product of a 1961 Constitution of South Africa. So Kudesa put together a new constitution for South Africa. They didn't argue that there is a government, there's a sovereign government in place. You cannot have another sovereign. No. This is for a limited process to achieve a particular purpose.
Okay,
I think we can do it.
Yes. Okay, as we wrap up now, just very quick mention of the Alpha Belgore Committee.
Yes.
The outcome of that committee's report. What's your thought on it in just a couple of sentences? Because I'll need to ask Mr.
Fantastic report.
Yes.
But what they have done, with very profound respect to my Lord, is to do a fact finding and put together these findings and say, this is our finding. Use it as a raw material. Make it the basis of discussions. It's a very good takeoff point.
Okay, the question I'll put to you, same issue, same question, but I remember that you did mention that if they get to about 35% alteration to the Constitution, it will not be legal, or maybe a bit more than that. How fundamental would you say Belgore Committee's report is, and how much change would it imply for the Constitution?
Well, I can only remind ourselves that there have been several of such reports, beautiful as they are. And therefore, for as many of those reports that we have, for that much we are prepared to deal with the ramifications of this crisis that we are facing. And therefore, it could be utilized, like Lenesik has suggested, as materials to deal with the issues as they come up in a proper sovereign national conference. That would be my take.
Okay.
Well, we have been looking at the Constitution review. If there was any need for one at all, or if we need to sit down and actually form and write another constitution based on what the Nigerian people want. And we were looking at that with two legal practitioners, Mr. Dele Adesina, Senior Advocate of Nigeria, as well as Mr. Malachy Ugwummadu. Thank you very much
Thanks a lot.
for coming and confusing us a bit more than we already are. Sunrise will return in just a moment. Please stay with us.